my name is Naver Kachoyan, and I'm here with my partner Pedro Reyes to present our project for COMP429. This is group project number 1, and the project is a Python-based chat application. It utilizes multi-threading and socket programming to enable peer-to-peer communication. I will first demonstrate the project, and then we will delve into the code and the implementation. I have a Tmux session with 3 panes opened. I'm going to start with a session on the left, with another on the middle, all with different ports. Alright, so now let's connect to the second pane from the first pane. For that, I will have to check my IP for the second one. Connect 192.168.67, and then I'm gonna have to provide the IP, and successfully connected. Now, if I wanted to, I could send a message, but first I'd like to list it. If I do ls or list, or even the number, which is 5, we can list all the connections that we have at the moment. We can see that the ID is 1, so I can do send 1, and I can say hi. And we can see that the message appeared in the middle. These 3 are different processes. Alright, so let's try to connect to the second one from the third one. Let's do ls. We see that no active connections. So we can do connect 192.168.12.67. And then we provide the port. So if we send, first let's do ls to see what we have. Alright, that's what we have. And then we can send to that hello, and we can see that it is going through. That means now we have the first and the third connected to the middle. In the middle, I would like to say, it says command not found because I hit enter by accident. Okay, so we do ls, we can see that we have 2 connections, and I could say send to the second one with, let's say, hola, and we can see that it went through. This demonstrated that we have full multi-connection setup, and let's see what else we can do. We have help, which is something that shows up when you start the program, and then we have my IP. Of course, we have my port, and I believe port also works, or just IP. And we have connect, which we tried, and we have terminate, which we can terminate. First, let's do ls to see what we have. All right, let's say I want to terminate 2, and let's do ls, and it has been terminated. As we can see that I did not correctly handle this error message because it did disconnect the peer, but it gives this error message, which it's not too bad, but we could improve that further. Alright, so that works. Terminate worked, send worked. We have demonstrated all of them. Now let's try exit. And if we exit, beautiful, it has exited. And in the first pane, we can see that it's broadcasting that the connection has been terminated from that peer. We can also do a Q to terminate, and we could also just type 8 to terminate. That's it. And now let me exit from these panes so we can demonstrate the code. Alright, so this is the main file. We have 2 files, main.py and utils.py. Main is the main entry, and utils is just util functions. Let's go over main. There are the basic imports for threading, socket, and the utils. And then we have some dictionaries, which holds the connections lock, which is for the threading, exit event for threading as well, and the ID counter for connections. We have the display help function, which is self-explanatory. And then we have get IP, which is just to get the IP of the current uh, process. Then we have connect peer, which is accessing the connection ID counter, which is a global variable. Then we check to see if it is ourselves. If it is, then we say self connections are not allowed. And then we connect to the socket via the socket API. And then I have a try and accept block, which will check for errors. And then we connect. We make the connection with the connections lock enabled, so that no other connections are trying to attempt connecting at the moment when we're trying to connect over here. So this is a important part of it, so that we can safely connect without having interference from other places. And here we can see that we have list connections, which is basically the ls or the list command. It is just going to check. Firstly, it'll lock the thread to make sure that nothing interferes with it during the time we're looking for things in it, because if, let's say, connections changes during the time we're trying to look for it, it will fail because you cannot change the size of a dictionary while you're trying to iterate over that dictionary. So that's pretty much the thing. Connections lock, and then we iterate over them. We show ID, remote address, and remote and the IP address. I mean the port address. And then we have terminate connection, which we also do with connections lock. And every major interactions with the thread has to be done with connections lock, so that we avoid any issues with trying two different processes trying to connect to trying to make a new connection in the connections dictionary and make a new thread. And then we have the handle connection, which is pretty much just the messages that it'll send. I'll send the connection and the address, and then we'll be able to send messages to them through this handle connection. And then we have start server, which is pretty much what we're using to start the server. It is basically going to initialize a server socket variable. It's going to access the connection ID counter, and it is going to create the socket and everything that it needs to be able to listen and set a timeout and bind to the port that we've specified. And if there is an error to start the server, it is going to terminate all connections if there are any for any reason, and then it's going to exit. And while the exit event is not set, it is going to try to make these connections. That's pretty much it. And then terminate all connections is the cleanup function. When we exit, we want to terminate all connections before we do so. And then I have the run menu, which will take my port just to be able to pass it to functions. And the valid options is pretty much all the options that we have, so that we are safe to check between them to make sure that we have all of those options. If the option doesn't exist in this variable, then we will warn the user that they have the incorrect command, as you can see on line 167. All right, so this is simple. And then we have the main function, which is starting the thread and getting the arguments from the command line and handling some basic error handling. And then finally, when the event, when we exit the program, we set the event, the exit event, terminate all connections, do a timeout on the thread so that it has some time to clean up before we exit out of the program. And lastly, let's check out the utils file. This is basically just to check if the IP address is valid. So we have IP address 4 and IP address 6. We check both of them. The main function that is exported and used is valid IP address. That's the main function that we use, and we check between IP4 and IPv6. If it's neither of them, we will return false. That's pretty much it for the project, and I believe we also have. Well, we don't have anything else because we don't have any other external libraries that are used. That's it. Thank you so much for watching.